Buff Nation, what's going on? Hope you guys are having an absolutely wonderful day. I'm wanting to throw some credit towards Joel Klatt. He had a phenomenal interview with Colin Cowherd. I'm linking that as well as Ari Temkin's interview with Andy Staples on the Andy Staples Show in the description. We're going to get into these interviews because I think it's really interesting. You're starting to see some college football experts, some real professionals covering the sport, understanding remove all the emotional stuff away from Colorado. If you just look at the evidence, this is a more talented football team. This is a better football team. And you've heard in this instance, both of these guys come out and say that realistically, Colorado doubling their win total plus more is definitely realistic in expectations for this year for the team. I'm going to break it down, my thoughts and synopsis on both of these interactions, Joel Klatt, as well as the Andy Stable Show. So y'all be sure to smash that like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And again, I'll link the videos for you guys to check out. I'm not going to play them just for any potential copyright dings, but I thought this was really interesting. So first, here's the quote from Joel Klatt. I'm going to break this down. Joel Klatt saying, there's a chance Colorado is competing to go to the Big 12 championship game. There is a scenario where if Shedeur Sanders is healthy and they maintain some of that health with guys on the outside, Travis Hunter, who I think is one of, if not the best overall player in college football, there is a chance that Colorado is competing to go to the Big 12 national championship game. And what I thought was really interesting about this, guys, was that Colin Cowherd opens up this segment of the conversation with a lot of just kind of the general talk that we hear from casuals kind of following this team or people that have some sort of weird, messed up, negative emotional attachment and obsession with this team. Where Colorado, he leads out Colin Cowherd saying they're arrogant, they sucked at the end. Is this thing actually even going in the right direction? Joel Klatt responds to this perfectly. And this is what I've been trying to say on my channel. You can't just evaluate Colorado by the record last year. You have to evaluate where this program was at, where the starting line, which is what he says specifically, was at with Colorado. And that was the worst football program in the Power Five at that time. So you saw a 400% increase in wins, okay? If you're just looking at that statistic, that is success. And then Joel Klatt goes on to say, again, people who say that this thing isn't a success or that it's a total mess, that it's a total clown show, they don't understand what the goal and objective is, where realistically this program is at. And he goes on to say, again, how much of a program changer this hire has been. And he thinks at the end, Joel Klatt says, this is realistic where you're going to see Colorado. They got the talent to double their win total from this past year and even more if things go in the right way. Because when you have Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, when you have that top end talent, if the other things fall in place, if you're able to stay healthy, if everybody kind of plays a little bit more together, if they manage the game in a more complementary way, the ceiling is going to be sky high when it comes to their potential to win the Big 12 and then going to the college football playoff. I don't think that any of this is rocket science. This is what I've been saying, I feel like all offseason, is that I feel like the floor for this team is like 7 wins, and then we'll see what they can do beyond that. It was great to hear Joel Klatt say 8. I see them winning 8 games or 9, and then who knows if some of these things fall in their favor. Again, does Joel Klatt have a little bit of bias, you could say, because he is a Buff? Sure, but I would reframe that to say he is one of the most plugged in and knowledgeable people with what is going on at Colorado, and I think he has one of the most accurate beats, so to speak, on what is going on in Boulder. And I think last year a lot of the things that he talked about were true, that they lacked certain depth, that they were really thin at the lines. I think he had, you guys might need to correct me, but I think he did have them as like a 6-win team, 5-6 win team. And we weren't too far off from that, okay? I think that Joel Klatt, he wouldn't be coming out there and saying this if he didn't feel like, in my opinion, that Colorado is going to be able to back it up this year. And that's what I'm thinking. And again, Colin Cowherd just kind of starting off, they're arrogant, they're cocky. Yeah, some of that is true. And some of that I've talked about on that is like, hey, that's fine, but we gotta win games this year, okay? And I loved how Joel Klatt kind of reframed it from this. Here we go again, just talking about the clicks and all that. Let's talk about where the actual team is at, okay? Because when you look at every single position group, it's hard to find a position group where they didn't stand pat or get better at. I can't name one in which I feel like they got worse, okay? And I feel like just going on a conservative side, let's just go on a very conservative perspective with going through the whole roster in terms of have they improved? Offensive line, they've improved. Quarterback, stand pat, Shador. Okay. Running back, I think you could say they stand pat. We didn't really know what they could do last year since we barely ran the ball. Wide receivers, I feel like we've gotten better or stand pat. Defensive line interior, better. Edge room, way improved. Linebacker room, improved. Cornerbacks, think you could say stand pat or maybe a little bit improved. And then I would say with the safety group, they'd probably stand pat right now with their amount of talent. Like, I don't see where this team got worse. And then you have the coaching staff. Coach Prime is here. We've added better coaches, in my opinion. That is my hope. Again, you can't get any worse than Bill O'Boyle. You can't get any worse, in my opinion, than how Sean Lewis came in here. Did not script plays, guys. That is something that you got to remember with the offense last year, is that Sean Lewis, he's a guy that doesn't script plays. That's crazy to me. Somebody who, again, in retrospect, went way over my head with not understanding like how important that was. We have competency, in my opinion, at these positions now where they're being coached, at these coordinator positions. Robert Livingston is really the only kind of big question mark. And I feel like he's at least going to be competent, because when you survive multiple regime changes in the NFL, you've coached, you've been at one place for over 10 years, you are competent. You are competent. You are a bright mind. And again, the performance of the defense as a whole and the offensive line as a whole, it only has upwards to go. You can't get any worse. You can't. So that's, again, if you remove your emotion, regardless of how you feel about how things are being done, which I think is ridiculous, look at the results. Look at the increase in talent and in depth that we've brought in this year. I don't feel like there's any position group where we got worse at this year. That's how I feel about it. And to piggyback on this, we had Ari Temkin, host of Big 12 Radio, coming on here and the Andy Stable Show, and talking about how he basically echoed what Joel Klatt was saying. He's like, again, remove your emotion from all this stuff, okay? Remove that from the equation. Look at this roster compared to last year. It's better, okay? And I see them as minimum, this is what he's saying, being a bowl game team. And when you got the high-end talent, who's to say if things don't fall in place and go their way a little bit, how they can't compete and be in that Big 12 championship with a potential to win it and go to the college football playoff. I think it's totally within the cards. I think there's totally scenarios in which this happens. Again, I think that early on, that game against Nebraska is going to be a big gauge on, is this team going to reach that high end of their potential this year or not? There are scenarios, guys, in which that Nebraska game week 2 might be our toughest opponent. They might end up being the best team that we played all year. And I'm not saying that to crap on the Big 12. I do think Nebraska is a very talented team this year. I think their over-unders at like 7.5 or something. But when you look at their schedule, I could see them. There are scenarios in which I could see them going 10-2 in their regular season, guys. 9-3, very good. Uh, I think we're going to know early on if they're going to be competing for that conference championship, and that is my hope. But it's been great to see, guys. It's not just Buffs fans coming out here saying that, yeah, like doubling our win total, totally realistic. Totally see that happening. You got people that actually are paid to pay attention to what's going on here, and they're smart enough and professional enough to remove any of those dumb talking points that actually don't have to do with football. Look at the roster, look at what's actually going on, and say, yeah, this is a team that's gotten better this offseason. So, y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. I thought that this was really cool, and I wanted to give my 2 cents on it because maybe we're just getting closer to college football season. Maybe that's what it is, right? But you're now starting to see some people understand, like, yeah, like this is going to be interesting. This is going to be a lot of fun. I was chatting on Colin Moore from Life and Football, his stream the other day. We were saying, man, I think we're going to have a lot more post games where we're going to be smiling. That's just how I feel about it. So y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you guys find this interesting, how the closer we get to college football season, you're actually seeing some reasonable and logical takes from the national media when it comes to this team? I think it's kind of interesting. So y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, smash that like and go check out the videos in whole from Colin Cowherd and Andy Staples. I'll link them in the comments as well. Appreciate you guys as always. Sco Buffs.